like people that are using, you know, those low rarity content creators. So those people are like the best to benchmark whether the content is difficult. Because if you could clear with low rarity content, then probably it's not that difficult. But I have seen like some low rarity creators, they are struggling to clear like 1.4 U2 like completely, and even if they would to clear it, they would probably spend like a lot of time on it. Like it's not something that most casual players would be willing to spend. But of course, when it comes to like just the 1.1 versus 1.1, do you think they did nerf it? I felt like they nerfed it. I don't have the evidence, but like from the general consensus, it seems like they did nerf it, and everything except for 30 is difficult. Like even 30 is kind of fine, but of course we are day one players. Like for casuals itself, what are you guys' thoughts on it?
Yeah, a couple people
I
might
think it's interesting.
some people in
Sure,
my
please.
community think they nerfed it because you didn't want it to be too hard for people who were just starting out in the game to get kind of frustrated, right? You wanted them to feel some sort of accomplishment getting through most of like the first big bad like end game, and most of the game is still casual. So like making it too hard would appease a smaller percent of the game, like I mean the players,
Mm.
versus appeasing to the casuals who are like, yo, this game is amazing. This mode is amazing. I got through most of it and I felt strong, right? I think they want to appease more so the casual audience for sure.
Yeah. What about you? Yeah, Riven.
I do have to say, I wonder if they actually nerfed it or if it's just a perception thing. Because one thing we have to keep in mind, we have way more information now than the CN players had at the same time. We know things like the damage formula. We have like, you should use this Psycube on this character. These are the best teams currently. So we just have overall way more knowledge than they had at that point, which also is a possibility that we can simply say, hey, technically seen, it's not easier. However, because we have more knowledge and have a better idea on how to build teams, how certain stats work, how to level efficiently, whatever, these things are just way easier for us in our current state. However, if they did nerf it, I think that would be quite interesting thing, because at that point we cannot be sure about basically anything anymore, and that is also the point where we cannot really compare us anymore to anything CN, because at that point we would need to have to say, hey, if there's a possibility of them nerfing, for example, the defenses of certain enemies or even their mechanics, maybe a different meta would establish. And I think that is kind of an interesting aspect to keep in mind when talking about that. Especially also how they change up banners, you know?
I see. Yeah, honestly, my thinking is that from a logical standpoint, they 100% nerfed it. Like, it's hard to prove if it is nerf or otherwise, but just thinking about other changes, right? Because we are talking strictly about YouTube, but there are confirmed changes that came from Global's end. There was a QL change when it comes to the tutorial skipping. There is a like extension of the story mode, whereby there initially it was like 14 days. If you are free to play, you probably couldn't clear everything unless you had like some candy jars stocked up. So like just like 1 or 2 candy jars stocked up, and then maybe with like level up rewards or level up stamina, you are able to actually clear it. But otherwise you couldn't do it. But they changed it to 25. So I do think that from the global launch, they did listen to a lot of what CN players provided, and YouTube was one of the things that they complained about it being too hard. So if it just comes down to perception, is it really that easy to go from too like insanely difficult, too difficult, more difficult than Limbo, then way easier than Limbo? Like because like Limbo, can you argue that they also nerf Limbo in that case? Like I don't think so. So if it's a comparison against something that is sort of fixed, right, then
I
it
mean,
felt like they yeah, we can't really prove it. This thing.
my account is kind of fucked, so I wouldn't know.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh my
We have a
god.
whale. We have a whale here, yo. Like free to play players, watch out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, cause like with the Limbo, I mean, even I have like a like Will account, but like the limbo still on my CN account. Like everything for my CN account feels much harder, and I have characters leveled up at the same level, if not some over. And I mean, I just have characters that are just stronger. Like I have 37 now. I have 6. Uh, I still have like Bloom Party, but I have like Res 9 on 37, Res 9 on Lilia. But like I feel like on global, I could have beaten that content much easier, right?
Actually, I think just because you're speaking about that right now, sorry. Apparently in CN second half, they started sacrificing their DPS and instead running 2 healers.
Mm.
Because it got so difficult. What are your takes on that?
That's the thing that's the thing I hear people talking about, like that it's you're needing more survivability, which it would be silly to have 2 healers in global, right? But like things do hit harder over in CN. I do believe that. But
I
like I don't know if
honestly I've
that's
seen the
because
content, but I don't really think it's I don't think it's like 100% mandatory to have 2 healers. I think people do exaggerate it a bit, but the difficulty is definitely spiking up. My only worry is that the difficulty might be a bit too high for players that are starting in 1.4. So like for global itself, if you were to start now, even if you want to be a low rarity clearer, you probably could. But if you start in 1.4 now, and you look at the limbo, you look at the U2, probably you'll be very hard pressed, which is why I think there's a need to like discuss also the change in the banners, right? Do they contribute to anything when it comes to global? Do you guys think?
I think it depends a little bit. So, for example, depending on how easy your access to supports like Voyager are, the thing is, if you don't have Voyager, crit teams are inherently just a little bit worse, at least currently. So not having a banner, for example, which features this character is kind of difficult in that regards. Instead, we get like 2 more DPS, one of which is just not that good. And the question is how this kind of trend develops in the future. So, for example, let's take 37 as an example. Depending on how they do the banners before that, as well as afterwards, so the simultaneous banner basically, I think it could be very interesting in how meta possibly develops. And because basically, if you are missing like very, very important characters for a certain team comp, this team comp would not be as good anymore at that point.
Yeah.
Are there such characters though outside of the poison team? Like, is it like I mean.
No, sorry. I don't mean necessarily that it applies to every single team ever. I'm just saying, technically seen, if they are able to change banners up, and there are teams which require a specific set of units. For example, the poison team is actually a better example. You're right. And I don't know. Suddenly, there's no Changling banner. Have fun. Like, what do you do with Sotheby, for example? Like, what do you do with her?
Yeah, I mean
at this point.
That's what I've been telling people. Like pretty much like poison team, like going for changeling is you're locking yourself into that team. That team doesn't change. Pretty much have to use changeling. Like you said, if you have your Sotheby, you don't go for changeling, then you just have a healer that can do.
You just have a
poison.
Sotheby, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Sotheby isn't that bad, guys. Like,
she's not that
stop.
bad. Yeah,
we should stop throwing like Sotheby
the
under the bus or
hate.
something.
The Sotheby hate is wild.
Like I'm using my I2 Sotheby just fine, yo. I'm not sure about you guys, yo.
No,
just using
mine is I3.
I'm using her as well, but that's only because I have like 2 healers built, one of them being Balloon Party and the other one being Sotheby. And the thing with Sotheby is simply her healing is not upfront. Like, she's not necessarily a bad healer, but you have to play her differently. You basically have to anticipate damage to heal it effectively at that point. And she does take quite a lot of AP, which also makes it hard to run her in certain team comps if you're not really lucky with the cards you draw. My opinion.
Mine is I3. So like whenever I see the heal, I just throw it up and then it just heals. If I need it, like if I need a more burst heal. Now, granted, people tease me because mine is P5, so I don't have the
Yo. Yo.
So
Let me continue teasing.
yeah, so like mine is a
Yo,
little
what am I
different.
doing here, yo? I just buy the monthly card, yo, and get my new Babel. That's all I do. No portraits over here for
But
any 6 stars.
for Limbo, I did use the source because I haven't been able to get Balloon Party at all.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, like so to
I
be like,
I I
yeah. What were you
I
saying?
think Soul to be is in a, like, people rate it very low. I think for now it's still fine. I think if we go to 1.4, if we continue to use Sotobi without Poison Team, it's not like the Poison Team needs Sotobi, right? They can run with Kanjira. They can even run without Sotobi. They can run with 2 fairy plus
Conjura.
2 fairy plus like Beacon. They don't even need to go
Oh yeah,
Poison, to be honest. Like, to be fair, like let's
but you
be
get her
real over here. Like,
I3.
Changeling is the only one that you need, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Sure, but at that point,
technically, yeah.
it's not a poison team anymore. And the question is less, does Changling need the other two? The question is more like, what do you do with the other two if you don't have the poison team?
Well, see, for me, I
Mm.
guess like if Limbo wasn't in the game, like I think people would of course focus one team and it'd be a little different. But since there's two teams, like my thing is like, using your Tooth Fairy and your like typically people would use their Tooth Fairy and other characters on another team, then you would have your team made for poison. But and that's with a Limbo being in the game. But every other content, there's one team, so like that's
I
where
mean,
someone
yeah,
would probably use the Tooth Fairy.
I think what is, sorry if I just want to backtrack a little bit, because I think what really is interesting is, and to be fair, many games do that. They create difficulty by giving bosses more damage or more HP or more defenses instead of interesting mechanics. And when you look at CN and you see people running right now teams such as Balloon Party, Medicine Pocket, and Tooth Fairy as one team, then is the question, why would I even need to build any damage dealer anymore if I just run 2 to 3 heals at this point? Because it is not possible to do the current content with anything else. It's the same thing like, at least right now, when you look to like Honkai Star Rail or whatever, you just have always this hyper carry comp. You always have basically the same type of team comp. And when they introduce a different type of content, this will change. They will go away from these things, but going to like, well, here's the release trailer for 1.5. Here's a new DPS character, but nobody uses DPS anymore simply because you have to run 2 to 3 healers at this point to even survive. Then is the question, either nobody's gonna pull for this DPS character, because why would you if you cannot use it literally, or they have to make this DPS character basically sustain heal defensive unit themselves, which then is the question, would you even need a healer anymore? Or another support, because that would be very busted at that point.
Well, we're talking about the new unit. I think someone in chat also wants to know, like, what do you guys think about power creep? Like, what do you guys think? Is there power creep coming up?
Is there a power creep?
I can go first. I can probably go first. I don't
sure.
think that I don't think that there is a power creep, but I don't think that it concerns the casual players that much, because from what I can see, a lot of the power creep lies behind portraits, except for maybe you can talk about 1.2. I think 1.2 units are pretty strong, right, compared to, of course, all the old units. And to some extent, I think power creep has happened, but I don't think that it is as serious as some of the games where you need this new unit to actually do something. But I think it's more like whale bait in that sense. What do you guys think?
So we talk about it a lot on my stream. So because like I play C in there, I tell and show people the new characters that come out have different ways to amplify their damage with either something stacking like their own buff, like Changeling has poison that she gets extra damage from. You have like 37 and 6 who have Eureka stacks that they use in their kit. They have a little bit more extra going on in their kits, and they were just talking P0, right, to give extra damage. Now, when you go into portraits, every character that came out in 1.1, typically the portraits have the same formula of upping the ult, and then they like up the skill, right? The damage of the skills, and then they up the ult probably 2 more times. And newer characters, it's like they either increase the amount of times that they can get a stacks, or like Black Dwarf, she gets up to 4 stacks, and then she gets more damage. 37 gets crit rate, then she gets more
Yep.
Rika stacks, then she gets more
Eureka.
damage. Like
Yeah.
six gets like easier ways to get his stacks and does like the hardest hitting ult in the game. Like it's more catered to their stacks and their kit, rounded around their kit, versus just like increasing like the just little numbers on their abilities. And that's where
Yeah.
the portraits change, and that's where the kits change, because the kits have more. Even with Spaladia, she has ways to give herself crit hit, crit rate, and crit damage with her burn stacks. So you can assume, like you said, Kaki, with portraits, she's most likely going to have portraits that deal with that.
Yeah. What do you think, Riff? Is your
I'm
Leah going to
thinking,
keep up with the power creep?
So, personally, I think it's a double-edged sword, because just having portraits which basically just amp up your damage flat out are like, that's really boring. It feels really shitty to get basically any kind of duplicate in this game, and inherently at some point you will. So changing the portraits in a way that it maybe even alters the way of how you build or play the character, I think is a good thing. However, they shouldn't lock important mechanics behind the later ones. So, for example, if the first Eidolon is like, wow, now you can get 4 stacks instead of 3, I think that is a good thing. It's more interesting than just saying, well,
Yeah.
now you deal 10% more damage, which doesn't
Yeah.
even translate like this, but whatever.
But even in Melania, we have the new mechanic, right? Like P2
Yeah, of course,
allows you
of
to
course.
steal 2 stacks. So,
And I think that is a cool thing necessarily. Like, you don't need it for the character to be usable, but if you have it, it will help out a lot. And I think that's a good thing. Regarding
That's
actual
still
power
a
creep.
thing.
Sorry, again?
No, I was saying that's still true. Like, you don't need the portraits for the new
you don't need the
characters.
power
Yeah,
creep.
of course.
That's
but,
why I'm saying I don't think there. I mean, there is power creep, but it's tied behind portraits mostly, except for maybe Two Fairy. I think Two Fairy is a legit power creep. Like Two Fairy just pretty much beats every other healer. Like let's
I
not talk
think
about like Sotheby here.
you cannot prevent power creep in basically any kind of gacha, and also neither in any kind of
Yeah.
card game.
Yeah.
Which this is, and essentially this is a combination out of both. Just look at things like Yu-Gi-Oh! If you
Yeah.
go back 10, 15 years and you compare it with nowadays, basically you don't even need to start, because you will be just defeated
Yeah.
within the first turn.
Yeah.
Back in my day, Yu-Gi-Oh battles
Isn't
lasted 20
Yu-Gi-Oh just like
turns.
Yeah,
isn't Yu-Gi-Oh
exactly.
just like reading a book these days? Like the cards have like descriptions of like books you
Sometimes,
have to.
but nowadays turns just take really long. So
Yeah,
before you had
yeah.
20 turns with like, I set this card and I end my turn, and nowadays you have, I empty my entire half deck, banish half my graveyard, get back all the banished cards, have 20 cards, I play this, special summon 30 monsters,
Yep.
and after 30 minutes your first turn is finished.
That's
And
pretty
then
much.
also the game is already over.
that's a great comparison, because like old Yu-Gi-Oh would have just basic monsters, right? Like, for the most part,
Yeah.
just have your basic monsters. But now everything can be a I'm a boomer when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, but everything can be part of a synchro summon or some stupid ritual
Yeah.
summon or whatever they have.
Correct.
Like, they're all complicated versus like
They get more
basic.
complicated, exactly.
Yeah.
And the same thing will happen here. The first units are more or less a little bit more basic, and afterwards it will get more interesting. And because it gets more interesting, they will release new mechanics, and new mechanics will always appease to a certain player base, and they will have to balance the enemies and boss mechanics around this. That's just how it will happen. There's nothing to argue about that. However, older units will certainly get worse because of that. And again, however, that does not necessarily mean that you cannot build or
Use them.
play older units. The same thing happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they will just bring out one single new card which completely catapults Blue Eyes Dragon, which basically was not played for 5 years, into a top tier meta deck.
Yeah.
And the same thing they can do here, and I think they kind of do it in an interesting way with, for example, 37. You know, you have like this follow-up synergy which suddenly makes Lilia relevant to a certain degree, even though maybe not as a main DPS anymore, and she is now a sub DPS which just supports 37 at that point. Hot take, but doesn't matter.
I hear some like Lilia defender going on there about the
Man,
Lilia.
I love Lilia.
Like,
I fucking hated
Lilia
your thumbnail
on my Sand account.
Yo, I know you hated my tier list. Yo, I'm just a messenger. I'm not telling you, like, I'm not saying I didn't create a tier list, yo. And some people say that the tier list like just a rant over here. Like, people say this tier list is trash and stuff like that. But I do think that people that don't know what they're talking about would hate a tier list because their favorite units are at the bottom of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just joking around here. But
it's pure copium, yo.
Getting back to the original topic, I think they can literally just release one single unit which makes another unit incredibly relevant. Just imagine they release a unit which suddenly says, hey, every stack of poison on the enemy, every time you attack, your entire team gets healed. And you maybe proc the poison stacks, you know? Suddenly Sotheby would get incredibly relevant at that point.
How about, do you think we would get a balance patch? What about balance patch?
If this would be Hoyoverse, I would have said no, never, but Lupo might be more open to it. I'm not sure though.
I haven't seen a balance patch in a story-based game, mainly.
Wait, New Babel got buffed, right? New Babel got buffed. I remember quite clearly that she got buffed.
Well, a lot of people say that only her. A lot of people say that 37 kind of brought New Babel up too, like, because the New Babel 37
cool
team.
I think that's cool.
Is like, people are using the crap out of that team.
It's slightly better. She can now function in that team, but she doesn't function like as much better than anyone else. Like, pretty much you can replace her with someone else, and the team is still good, right? It's not like they need her. So
I think balancing itself will like, we have to keep in mind this is still a gacha game, and people spend real money on this game to get their unit. And one thing which they literally kind of cannot do is nerfing a unit. They can only buff other units. However, they will also not necessarily they will not necessarily buff other units. And I think the way of how they will handle it is simply by introducing new synergies or creating specific enemies or mechanics inside of Limbo, UT2, whatever, to make one character more relevant than other characters.
It's what they're doing now, right? Anyways, like, I mean, with 1.4, it's just about that Genesis damage, and then, you know, like the Sea Serpent being one of the most difficult boss rates, and then they introduced 37 to counter. If you don't have 37, you could clear, like with Charlie Evans clears with a lot of other characters, but it's generally not as easy to clear by casual players. And then, like, to get SSS rank, of course, I'm talking about that, like, you can get A rank quite easily. So they probably thought that it would be good to sell units this way, and it has already started. I think from the start of the game, like when it comes to Limbo Reflectors, when it comes to all these kind of things, they are just incentivizing people to actually pay. So I think that's pretty good. Wait, Lucky, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was talking to the wife.
Okay.
What's her opinion?
Yeah, what's your opinion?
Get her in on there.
Her opinion is she's just happy to get Regulus and the dog. That's all she knows about R99.
Yo,
fair enough.
Pickles. What about Pickles, guys? Thoughts on Pickles?
I have no opinion on that. I haven't pulled for him. I will not pull for him. I honestly also don't care for him because Tooth Fairy is coming up. So the question is simply at this point, is there any character which you need except for Tooth Fairy? And the answer is probably no.
I think Pickles is
cool.
I
also think this is not.
But I think Pickles is also.
I mean, sure, if you like dogs, that's also a different thing. But
oh no, that's no. I don't mean it that way. I do like dogs, but it's not the reason why I got them. I said that way too quickly.
Yo,
but Pickles is a unit. I told people same thing with Melania. 1.1 characters are not necessary unless you can afford to get them and the characters in 1.2. Like this is what it is. Like if you can't like but then again, like I got people y'all heard me talk the what do people call it? Um building pity. A lot of people use 1.1 to build pity for Tooth Fairy. We
Oh,
talked about
yo.
this.
Building
And
pity.
it's a joke
Building
now
pity,
in my community. Yeah. So it all started with Melania. People would be like, "Oh, man, I was putting like 10 summons into the Melania banner or 15 summons into Pickle's banner." They're like, "Oh my god, I got the character. I ruined my pity." Like stuff like
I've
that
got a
would
lot to
happen.
say about this. I think I have the most to say about this. Like if you take a look at my channel, you'll probably find a video whereby I told people to actually go for this 2-for-1 strat, and then people claimed that I was teaching them to build pity, and no offense, but they probably don't understand like the
It's
concept
your fault.
behind doing that. Like it's not my fault. Like building PT is not a thing. Like
No,
I think it's
you're
a
just
thing,
adding to
of
your
course.
gotcha. You're
If
just
you
adding to your gotcha
yeah,
addict.
yeah. But what I'm saying is that,
Totally.
like, if you really want, like, Pickles is an S tier unit, and Melania is great. Like, people keep shaming Melania when she was like A on Pritwin. When I made my video on Melania, she was A on Pritwin, and then the next day she got
They
S, and then
changed her.
subsequently now, if you look up Pritwin, all S. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm not really wrong. Yeah, like I'm just saying that
Well,
we should try to like prioritize things accordingly, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to get Pickles in 10 pools. Like
I
unless you don't want Pickles. I
I
think it
kind
would
of
be a great idea.
I kind of want to hijack the conversation here a little bit. So because my chat is dead, I'm gonna take a little question. Well, not a question. But something Matt Goldsmith said in the chat in Cocky's chat. I can't get pickles anyway now. I raised necrologist. I can't fucking speak, as well as Regulus. I personally want to go to the necrologist thing because apparently in CN right now she is considered really good, and I honestly have no idea why. So maybe you two guys can help out there because I think that's quite an interesting thing that we now have like a five-star unit which was not considered, or which was considered okayish, which suddenly raises in popularity so much.
Boss reads. 2 words. Boss reads. Like
the only
50% damage dealt for 3 other units is very, very helpful for you to get SSS rank, and people don't realize it. They call
I
it
think it's
copium
boss
for people
strats.
that can't get Pickles, but yeah. I think it's boss reads.
Yeah,
Simple
I
as that.
think
And
that's
also the
where
prayer, yeah.
I think that's where like another tier list is gonna be created because like there's more bosses in CN right now. There's like
Yeah, but I
fights
think
that you do that are rated, and so like you just go straight into the boss fight. So like I think your teams are definitely like people are just building their teams for just stack up damage. So like I don't even think Necrologist fits in global versus where you're fighting the Final Fantasy looking lion, the sea serpent, or the egg cut off mistress.
I
Whatever.
get it, but I think that kind of brings us back to this point of power creep where enemies just do so much damage that you now need things like prayer to, well, even be able to do the content at that point. And
I wouldn't
I
say
think
it's
that's
mandatory though. Like Rafe, I don't think it's mandatory. It's good to have. Like you could probably replace Necrologist with someone else if you already have the DPS to actually get SSS rank. I think the survivability point you can treat her like a sustain, but you can replace her with another sustain. So I don't see it as a sustain
Well, I
problem.
think that's why Miss New Babel got upped because like she has that sustain, and then people put her with Tooth Fairy and 37,
Mm,
and 37 gives herself sturdiness.
yeah.
So then you have the Miss New Babel shields with the Tooth Fairy heals. So you have now a tanky DPS with a shielder and a healer. That's why that team is so popular because they're like, well, instead of using Lilia, just use Miss New Babel with Tooth Fairy and 37, and they're like it still will work out because
Yeah.
I mean the bosses do hit hard. They hit very hard. When you get up to the higher rank, it's like it stacks damage. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's because of the prayer that Necrologist has. Um, but it could be something. like it could be something, but I think it's probably her damage buff more so than
Yeah.
her survivability.
And dispel, I think for the second boss you do need dispel, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, dispel is pretty important.
Yeah. And then like 6
Yeah.
with some of those bosses, he's still weak to him, Afflatus wise. And like he has a cleanse and stuff and he can buff your character, but like he also gets like
Yeah.
kind of rocked. Because like he just takes bonus damage. Most of those bosses
Fair
have,
enough.
like spirit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting though. I do think that's very interesting.
I think it's especially interesting in the regard that we kind of can now build units for the future.
Yeah.
If things don't change. So basically, you can literally start building Necrologist now to have her ready when raids drop, for example. And I think what Lucky said is really interesting, that there might be even like 2 different kind of tier lists, like one specifically for raids and one specifically for basically all other kind of content. And I think that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, that's what I see. Somebody is asking, why is Tooth Fairy so good? I've been getting
so good?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who haven't really looked at her are kind of curious why is Tooth Fairy talked about? Why is she meta?
Yeah, so let's think about this from a standpoint of Medicine Pocket. Let's compare her to Medicine Pocket. So Medicine Pocket has a skill 1, 20% damage taken debuff, right? So Tooth Fairy also has a skill 1 that is 20% crit rate increase, or rather crit resist, but it translates equally to crit rate increase. So it's 20% crit rate, right? But the difference is with these 2 units, right, there's an additional thing for Tooth Fairy whereby you just passively apply a 15% crit damage increase as well as a crit rate increase for the whole team. Technically, it's a passive thing. You don't even have to use the AP. I think it's very important. We need to consider that as well. I think Medicine Pocket is, like, if you think about it, right, this is something that some people don't get. If you were to have 2 attacking skills versus 2 attacking skills plus a damage taken 20% debuff, by the way, it lasts for 1 turn. If you use it in that turn itself, compared to you using 3 attacking skills, you will do more damage without applying the debuff. So technically, you shouldn't apply the debuff unless you have like ultimates and stuff. So it's not as good as people think it is, like especially when it's 1 turn. Yeah.
Person says Medicine Pocket stuns though. Yeah, stuns aren't as useful though in a lot of parts of the game.
Yeah, it's
most crowd control, like saying a character has crowd control is like cool, but not everything is affected by crowd control.
Yeah.
Especially like again, we've been talking CN. None of those bosses can get hit by crowd control. Like they're
all immune now. So it's
so
at that point, if you have a unit which is basically built around CC, but then you have like bosses which are literally just immune to any kind of CC, is the question, why even have that unit in the game if you can literally just disable the entire unit?
No, but that goes back to the point whereby you want to have different tier lists, right? Because some content don't have that.
Yeah, because Limbo has multiple units. You have Limbo where you have like 3 or 4 units, and if you can CC most of those units or stun a boss, like, you know, that's where that unit.
Juvis
Fair
is
enough.
a god.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, Juvis is really good. I think people underrate Juvis a lot at game launch. I think if you build Juvis up from game launch, you'll probably have a good time. Like even in 1.4, she's great.
You know why? Because most of the tier lists didn't put her at S. People didn't.
Yeah.
If you were garbage to most people, which Melania was not at S, and then A-Knight is not at S. Drevis is not at S. And so people are like, oh, okay, those characters must be garbage then, because
I want to talk about A-Knight.
And so like
yeah, A-Knight. Okay, let's go with A-Knight then. He's very popular, right? I mean,
bro, A-Knight has like most popular video. People love A-Knight.
Wait, how many views is on that video now?
It's like 32,000, something like that.
Just
for an A-Knight. This is my biggest video on my channel.
A-Knight best character. A-Knight best character.
Yeah, I don't understand.
What do you want to talk about it?
I want to talk about him because of the new Psycube. And people are saying, well, it just catapults him from being mid to, sorry for calling that mid. I hope I don't get cancelled immediately. It basically catapults him from being passable to being really, really good. And
I disagree. But
and
you,
that
you
is-
can continue. I'll disagree later.
No, the thing is, I don't know, because I personally don't take anything at face value without testing it myself, which is literally what my channel kind of is about. And that is why I wanted to hear your opinion on that. Because the Psycube in itself, not gonna lie, it sounds good, but I'm not sure if it actually makes a knight that much better.
I can tell you, I've looked at this IQ, and I hear people talk about it. I don't think it's like it's not making up for the usual 30 inflated difference that most people have, and that Psycube isn't solving A Knight's problem. A Knight's problem is he needs to kill, and hell, most of the content in CN you're not killing, like, so like doesn't matter anyways. And then yes, he has Moxie. He has Moxie gain with his mass attack. He can just get straight Moxie without killing. Wait, no, he can't. Actually, he has to kill every time. You can? Okay, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you have to kill. You have
to kill. That's right. But it's level 2 of the mass attack. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to kill. So like a lot of stuff you can't kill. So like Limbo is really the only like he's like a Limbo character. That's why you have to have 2 separate tier lists, right? Because like he can take out the smaller units, but then you need a damage buffer to really amp his damage up, or a debuffer, somebody to help him to ensure that he can kill and take out those units. Then he does his big mass ult with the damage buff, and I think that's just the way his kit is. It's just when the enemies get harder, it's harder to use him.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of a problem. Like, people are still waiting for an A Knight video from me, and for me, it's just I don't know how to test him.
I think Kaki has something to say there. He looks like he's preparing something.
Yes,
he's over there
prepping my counter argument. I think that A Knight with the balance, like the new Psycube, right? You guys are saying that did it make him really good? But I will tell you right now that he is already busted. Like, with the Psycube, he is beyond busted. Like, I think he's really, really good. Like, he's really, really, really good. Like, if you take a look at his stats, you look at the attack standpoint, and if you think about why people use Bounded Duty over, like, other Psycubes, it's just the attack difference is not that huge. But if you look at A Knight stats, how much more attack does he have, like, compared to the other units? Not just attack as well. There's HP. And also, I don't think that the Moxie when you kill units is great, right? But he is, once you get the HP down, like, you don't even need to get like super down. You just have to get it to midway. He is already doing a lot of damage, and I've seen like a lot of boss rates whereby like every single boss rate, like, people have used A Knight because his damage is just, even if he's doing single target DPS, he is very, very effective. And with the balance, please, right, it's basically 20. If I'm not wrong, it's 24% damage increase. Although it only serves him technically, since no one else really wants to use that Psycube. So you are really going from good to very good. And I have seen it for myself, like the damage he deals is, and not to also mention the support aspects when he kills something with his ultimate. But I don't even consider that, and he's really very good for me. So that's what.
You know what? That makes,
what I think.
Actually, when you explain it that way, that makes sense, because I forgot about his low health mechanic, and in bosses that actually is useful because they have bigger amounts of health and stuff like that. That's where you would see that, because
it's by percentage, but yeah, it's still very relevant if you go past a certain threshold. Yeah.
Oh, yo, I just got a super chat from Tin Lee. Yo, appreciate it. Thoughts on I3 for 3 to 4 stars? We now have a super sense weakness eagle in Utu. Also building diggers or baby blue when I don't have a mental team yet. Somebody actually brought this up, that they think that 3 and 4 stars should have I3. Because like they want those characters to continue being viable. And then also someone was asking about building diggers or baby blue for a mental team.
All right, there were many questions at once.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, the 3 and 4 stars.
Yeah.
I said they haven't built a new 3 or 4 star, so I don't think they're gonna focus on those. I think those are just placeholder characters from when they started it, and I don't think they want to invest into them anymore.
Yeah, honestly, they just exist so that you have basically trash to pull, like just the way of how you get like 3-star weapons or whatever when you're pulling Genshin, or in Honkai Star Rail. They need something to fill up. So I get why. And the problem is they never want it to be good, because at the moment where a 3-star, 2-star, 4-star unit gets as good as a 6-star unit, the question is always, why would you need the 6-star unit? In the end, it's a gacha game. They want you to spend money on it. And from a business perspective, I can understand it. However, I can also understand it from a player's perspective, where you just say, man, I really like this onion, I want to use him. And this is exactly where I think, who was it? Painblade, I think. He made videos about how he clears every content in the entire fucking game with 3-star units.
Yeah.
And I think that shows exactly how good it is. Because at that moment,
to a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, if you can clear the entire game with 3-star units,
Yeah.
you're good. At that moment, and that is my personal, I might know that's a really hot take, but I personally think tier lists are absolutely unnecessary, and there's no reason for them to exist if you can clear the entire content with 3-star units. However,
but soon you can. Yeah, but soon you can. That's
that
that's a
is
reality.
coming up,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, a lot of people
that
ask
will
me
be
that.
coming in the future.
They're like, yeah, a lot of people are like,
right now, yeah. Next
right now it's
time,
fine.
probably not.
I think, well, actually, I take it back a little bit, because in the end, I mean, tier lists to help to give a certain direction, which I think will be useful, because in the end, sure, Pain can clear the entire content with 3-star units. However, he also needs to do like hundreds of tries to achieve this, and it's really difficult. And most players probably don't really want that, so investing into better rated units on a certain tier list will be more efficient and less frustrating for certain people. However, if you want the challenge, you just go down the tier list. Okay, I take it back. Yeah, it makes sense.
But
I think
it
that
takes it's trial and error and understanding of the game too that people might not want to do.
Yeah, but people put too much focus on certain tier lists. They see something in like S or S plus, and they immediately say these are the only usable units, and everything else in the entire game is trash, and I will never put anything in them. Even though, like, Pritwin themselves, they've said that the difference between S and A is really marginal. It's so small, and basically you can use A tier units just as well as you can use S tier units, because you wouldn't even be able to probably get like most teams together if you would just go by S tier. Yeah, people need to stop putting so much emphasis on the specific tiers themselves.
I'll be honest, I think it's the extremes. Like people that comments on tier list videos saying tier lists do not matter at the end of the like those people are also quite annoying. Like if you tell a free-to-play player you can play anything you want, then why am I asking you for advice, right? Because they have limited resources and they need someone that knows what characters are actually useful, so that they could clear stuff with less investment. They don't have like 10 hours, 20 hours to research which one is good, and you just tell them, hey, you can clear using any of the units. Like, then you are not answering any of their questions, right, at that point. But you also have to tell them that, okay, sure, this tier list, it does shows like a tier 4, like for instance, in a tier list whereby there is tier 1 and there is tier 4, there is a significant difference to some extent from a bottom tier Sotheby versus a 2 Fairy. There is a difference, like substantial to some extent difference, right? Unlike like tier 0 and tier 1. So that it is quite useful. I do think so. And I think that you shouldn't just tell someone that you can just go with anything. Like you probably could, but yeah, like to your point about Painblade, I understand that his content revolves around that. But I've been researching on low star, because let's be honest, my next video is about low star units. I already planned for it. I will need to finish it by tonight or tomorrow, so that it's coming out. Just a heads up. But I've been researching and I realized that people cannot actually clear content now. Like even the best low rarity content creators, they are having difficulty clearing U2, and they are having difficulty clearing Limbo. Like if not, they couldn't clear with full stars, or they're trying very hard to clear with full stars. And all of their like low rarity units I've been seeing, like Rezo 10, like I-250 Rezo 10 is like a basic kit. Like if you have that and you still can't clear, then what's next, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, like I mean, I had the Fool on my account for the longest time because of his taunt and then his corrosion, and he did very, very well. But like now it's to the point where he's getting kind of smacked around. Like even though he has like over 8,000 health and has over 700 defense and stuff like that, he's still just getting smacked around. Versus I could have, and he's at res 10, IT level 50, portrait 5. But if I would have put like a portrait 5, I mean not port, if I would have put res 9, IT level 50 into like let's say a actual like 5-star or 6-star like survival character, those stats would have been like much higher, of course. But like it's just, I mean, to use a 3 and 4-star team, like I think it's cool. I think it shows like how you could say the game is very free to play friendly, but you just have to play at a sweatier like way. Like
Yeah.
you just have to play very sweaty. You have to understand the mechanic like crazy. And someone can say like, well, I like to play that way. It's perfectly fine, but the casual player isn't gonna want to have to sit and struggle um on a stage like to try to make
Wait,
3 and 4 stars work.
sorry to interrupt. I think. Wait, why is like Raven not live? Raven, are you live?
According to this thing, I am live, yeah. I have
That's
3
weird.
people watching at least. Wait.
No. I don't think you are live.
Why does it not say
Yeah.
I'm live?
Yeah, that's. Someone told me in my chat that you're not live, and then I did a quick check.
It
It
says
seems you're
excellent
not live.
collection.
Really?
Oh, I'm
You
new
have to click the go live.
Yeah,
on the-
I
I
did
said
that,
fine,
but
so-
I did it, but it actually didn't work, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I'm new to YouTube streaming. I'm just used to Twitch. I see. Well, thank you for the heads up.
Yeah.
That makes a
No
lot
one
of
else
sense.
asked. Correct. I thought that you were live because you played the intro and stuff. So.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I thought that too, but apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not used to this YouTube thing where you can schedule things and then apparently you can't go live before the specified time or something. I don't know.
You have
Oh,
to
well.
hit the event if you're using OBS.
But in the end, it doesn't matter where you are watching, you know. In the end, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
watch
true,
Lucky,
true.
if you watch Cocky, or if you watch me, it doesn't matter. In the end, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I'm new to YouTube streaming, especially
Yeah.
scheduled stuff. Well, thanks thanks for the
you're now
heads
live.
up.
You're now live. It's
Cool.
good now.
Not that it matters too much, I guess. So whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about 3 and 4 stars, right?
So
So do you think they will buff them? Do you think they will release Insight 3 for them? Or do you think they
No.
will just forever treat them as fodder? I'm leaning towards fodder. I'll be honest.
Well,
I
don't think they'll do like an E7 thing and do like. Well, okay. Well, E7 has like, the specialty. I don't know if y'all play E7, but they have like specialty for like 3 and 4 stars, and 3 and 4 stars get like, well, not the 3 stars get specialty, and they kind of get buffed up and stuff. But they have they're still not amazing. And for the 3 and 4 stars, yeah, I think they'll be fodder because like if you buff them, what will it do? Like for a CN player, what will it do buffing a 3 and 4 star? Nothing, honestly. It won't benefit. It won't benefit most people because most of them have leveled up their like, 5 and 6 stars. Now you could say, well, for the people who are free to play or whatever, well, by the time like we're in 1.5 pretty much a few days away from it. By that time, you would have already gotten a meta team. That's 4 patches, so you wouldn't really need a 3 and 4 star anymore.
Exactly.
You 5 stars.
Yeah.
So like you would have been able to move on. Now, if you are choosing to use a 3 and 4 star, that is you. That like they can't really like buff a character because people choose to use 3 and 4 stars because like you don't really need them, and it's harder to use them. They get nuked.
Yeah, personally,
I think they're like counters more like it. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Specific niche counters.
I think they will, if at all. So personally, I don't think they will do that. However, if at all, if they would ever bring I3 to 3-star units, well, on 4-star units, I think the only reason they would ever do that is if they bring I4 at the same time to 5 and 6 star units. And I think the way they would only do that if they literally power creep this game so much to a point where they need to get your characters stronger. Because let's keep in mind, there's only a certain amount of strength you can put into your characters. You know, you have your levels, your insight, okay, so level 60 I3. You have your Psy cubes, which can also only go until level 60, at least up until now. And you have your resonance, which can go until R15, and that is very, very expensive to get to R15, and the gain between R13 and R15 is relatively small for how expensive it is. So at that point, like a casual free-to-play player would need to farm weeks and months to get to that point. And at that point, they will probably just say, okay, you can now upgrade 3-star units to I3 and 5 and 6-star units to I4 possibly. But if we come to the point, I don't think so either, because let's be honest, at that point they would need to power creep enemies so much. Like what? It's like I don't even know how to explain it, because if they need to creep it this much, like why not just nerf the enemies instead? You know, it's difficult, I think, but yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people have been asking this and talking about this. A lot of people think that which I have a very different opinion how people feel. A lot of people have a problem with the amount of resources it takes to level a character into I3 a character, and the general amount of stamina in the game. What is y'all's thoughts? Because a lot of people have been leaving the game because it thinks it takes way too much to level up characters and all of that.
I think it should be this way. Like the game is gonna get very boring. The game is already quite easy if you have invested units. Like, to make you have invested units right off the gate, people like, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I have people like leaving comments on my YouTube like video about how easy it is. They expected to have a more challenge. Like, and I, as a day one player, I also thought that I should be getting a bit more of a challenge. Like, not just clearing in 3 hours. Like, if you're a bit more casual, you can slowly collect the fame cards and then build up your U2 team. But if I'm clearing without even like the best fame cards, then what is the fame card system about, right? It's kind of lame. So should be a bit more of a challenge. But for first event, I think it's fine.
I think this is specifically something I want to go into, because people don't realize how expensive my videos actually are. Since release of the game, I've refreshed 8 times every single day. I spent hundreds of euros or dollars, depending on how you want to see it, just on refreshes. Because some videos of mine take 10, 12, 30, 100,000 stamina to actually complete. And right now, I'm at a level where I can just say, okay, I cannot afford it to a certain degree to continue doing this every single day for every single video. Because in the end, it doesn't, like, if I pay 500 euro to refresh my stamina for like a week or 2 weeks, to get out a video which gets like 5,000-10,000 views, like, it literally doesn't matter. That's not a payoff.
It's
not at all. And at that point, currently, I'm at a point where I refresh maximum once, maybe twice a day, and I feel it so hard. And I cannot imagine playing this game actually free to play with only these 180, maybe 240 stamina. Like, you would need such a long time to do anything.
But events though?
Yeah, like, sure, but even the events, like, for right now, so to get maybe some people up, I made a poll where I asked people, hey, I would like to do an amplification video. Which Psycubes would you like to compare? And the people voted for Thunderous Applause as well as for Hopscotch. So I didn't think about it, but I needed to spend, like, I had a lot of resources left over from, the events. I was not able to get Hopscotch from level 46 to over 57. Which means I needed to still spend stamina on farming stages or to pull and then spend it in the shop at the end. It is fucking insane how expensive leveling these things actually are. And in the end, it turns out it was a really dumb idea because hopscotch is not really easy to test. And for everybody who's waiting for this video, I have a little bit of a problem. I actually did less damage after upgrading the Psycube than I did before because I just critted less. So I'm not sure how to package this into a great video, which is also why it's not out yet. And I'm thinking about doing Luxurious Leisure instead, or I don't know. Like, I'm honestly not sure how to exactly do this. But if I tell you, well, according to the data, upgrading this will make you do 1k damage less on average. That somehow
that doesn't make sense, yo. What are your thoughts, Lucky? Yeah, on this
So,
one.
well, so my thoughts on the resources. So, like, I think we discussed it on my stream, and I think some people didn't like that I was comparing the game to. Well, I was comparing the game to other games, but like talking about the resources, like, so I have I don't refresh all the time. I've refreshed like a couple times here and there, but Jesus Christ, you're mechanical. Sorry,
Yeah.
it came through like crazy. But I think the resources are particularly fine because like there's no gear farming, and I strongly think that it's fine. I'm sorry, I know people don't like to hear it. People are like, well, you're a whale, so you can like refresh. I don't refresh damn that much. Like my account level is like level 40, like 142, and a lot of my characters are insight to level 50, not even res 9, and I can get through a lot of the content. Like I'm not, like world's first out here, but like I definitely have the above average player experience, right? Like I think like I understand everyone wants to like level their characters, get everything to I3 and everything like that, but like guys, like we're in the first month. Like like you don't
actually
have
donate it. That's what
like,
I'm thinking as well. I don't think
like
you need
don't
to do
have
that.
to like you don't have to rush so many like I3 like characters and stuff. Like it's gonna be fine. Like you don't need a full team of I3 yet.
I will just throw this in here and people can think of it what they want, I make videos with sheets. All my characters, like Melania, Centurion, and Lilia, are at least I3 level 40, if not level 60. They're completely maxed out. I cannot clear Limbo 6 too. However, this is probably...
That has to be a skill issue.
Skill issue.
And that is this is a skill issue.
This is a skill issue, 100%. But the reason for that is because I only have to think, like, whenever I open the game, I don't play the game anymore. I just open it to make videos. And at that point, the only thing I do is my mind basically by now is always in this mindset of, okay, I have to do exactly this to make the spreadsheet the most efficient. But when I play Limbo, I should not do that. And I think that's a little bit of a problem, and this should be the heads up for people. If you like, there will be videos also in the future coming from me about how much is it actually worth it to go from I2 to I3 or whatever. But again, it takes a lot of time now, especially since I will not refresh every single day 8 times anymore. And I mean, I have previous data, but whatever. What I mean is, maxing your characters will not help you if you are a fucking bad player. That's me. So skill in this game actually does matter to a certain degree. Sure, I mean, if you have like I2 level 1 or whatever, it's not going to help you either. You probably should get it up there. But skill in this game is certainly important. And if you think about, I want to max my character, you can do that, but it will not be a great investment, especially if you're free to play.
Yep.
So I outed myself just to give people a heads up. There you go.
To his defense, guys, I don't think it's 100% skill issues. The team comp also plays a part. Like,
yes, team comp is important.
What do you mean team comp? My team comp is Lilia, Centurion, and
you need a
Lilia,
healer
Centurion, and
healer.
Because those are the only units I've built.
It's a Melania, Centurion, and Lilia. They're not going to make a team, yo. You need a healer.
You can't tell me that. My account is so fucked over. Like, literally everything I do in this account. Like the next unit I'm leveling is fucking A Knight. Just because people want
Yo.
videos on that.
Oh, Jesus
I am
Christ.
leveling A Knight, but I at least have a healer. I think you should work on the healer first, yo.
I mean, I have Sotheby and Balloon Party at I2 level 50 or something, Resonance 5 or 7, no idea. But I don't have any good Psycube to go with, so it doesn't necessarily help.
I think the Psycube meta isn't that important, to be honest. I think Psycubes are pretty much people focus a lot on the specific effect, right? But I think the stats matter the most. So if you have good stats, probably fine, to be honest.
Yes and no. I think for DPS you are kind of right. Like in the end, if you ultimate for the DPS, I think it doesn't matter as much. I think it matters more for the healers themselves. For example, if you have like how is it called? The one Psycube where every time you use an incantation, you heal the lowest units for like 24% of your attack or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you talking about with the debuff, Inquisitive Deer?
Yeah, exactly that one. I think that is extremely underrated because in the end you will do that a lot. And if you heal for 200% of your attack and you have 2000 attack, you will heal for 4000 HP just by pressing a button 4 times.
I see. Yeah, but
I think
there's something funny over here because I'm using hopscotch on my balloon party and my Sotheby.
I mean,
like,
me too, but that's
I was using laughter, and then I was like, yo, this level 20 laughter, am I going to upgrade it? And like, why not just use hopscotch, right? I'm just using hopscotch. Like
yeah, sure. But I think it's very underrated.
That's why I'm saying it's from personal experience. I think just having a healer with a bunch of stats thrown on it
that is the most important.
It's
certainly.
fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Well, it's true. Like especially when like Sotheby is like all attack based. Like for most of her, like
so throwing stats is pretty good as well, right? I mean, of course, ideally I just bought the IQ. I haven't gotten to leveling up. I have been a bit lazy on that end, but it's more about stats when it comes to Psycubes, I think. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the stats are the most important. I agree. But I would not necessarily undervalue certain.
Of course. Yeah.
Certain amplification effects.
If you want to min-max, you definitely need to like fit the right Psycubes. For my DPS, it's the right Psycubes, but I'm just like throwing whatever is available on my leftover units like Sotheby. So for now. But I'll probably build up the IQ.
Yeah, so just to check this, Steamed Bun X just said that his Bound and Duty is the best stat stack, and I think that's probably true. If you don't need it on a specific unit, just slapping that on basically everything just for the stats is really good. But I still think having a specific effect which helps your team get more tanky in a certain degree should not be undervalued, especially if it's something you would do anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
Yeah, like I mean, that's like in any other game where you just throw gear on just for the stats, you know, like
yeah,
pretty much like the same thing, you know. But yeah, to close out like the whole resources thing, like guys, you'll be okay. We're 25 days into the game.
Correct. You'll be okay.
Like just because like you see people with like 6, 7 I3s, or you're like, why can't I I3 my characters? Like, bro, it's okay. It
looks better with 3 triangles, yo.
What do you mean you don't have every single character maxed after 25 days?
Yeah, exactly. Like bro, it's wild.
I think people, these kind of comments, I mean, I can understand them if you don't come from a gacha game background, because people just want to literally consume the game for 20 hours a day, play it for a month, and then never touch it again. And you know, if you play, I don't know, Elden Ring or whatever, you can literally play that for like 100 hours straight in a row and then never touch the game again because your character is maxed. But I think for gacha games specifically, most people who play gacha games more often will realize this is a long-term investment. And if you don't have your character maxed after 1 month, that is very normal in these games. And if this is not something for you, then probably the entire genre is not something for you. There will be no gacha game ever in the entire world who will just make you max out characters immediately within 1 month of playing and be able to clear every kind of content while not giving you new stuff to do. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think it's because like a lot of people are like, oh man, like, but this character doesn't work until I3. It's like, I think they do. I think like I3 makes them better, but a lot of people think they can't use the character until like I3 because so do we. A
Oh,
lot of
they
people are like,
definitely could. Yeah,
it's like,
they
bro,
definitely could.
you can
Yeah.
definitely use a character. Like it's just I3 just makes them that extra bit better.
Some of their I3 makes them a lot better. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people recommending like people to I3 their Centurion first. I think that is the Centurion. Yo, Centurion
if you do-
I3 is.
if you do solo environment testing like I do, that really helps, to be honest.
I mean, it does, like, but if you. Other than
I'm not talking about real applications here.
Yeah, I mean, from a real application standpoint, right? Like Centurion's I3 doesn't even give that much benefit as I3 Eternity, whereby with that you're truly able to solo. Like with that you're not even able to solo. So to the extent I don't think it's that effective. I think Pickles is a great example of I3 character whereby the breakthrough is really huge because from a like I2 is just like Necrologist. Like think about it like that. I2 is Necrologist. Like I3 you can start to AFK from turn 1 or you can start to like do stuff.
Yeah.
And you can build Muxi, you can but yeah. That's why I think certain units do have higher priority in my opinion. Yeah.
Agreed. So we have 20 minutes left on the podcast. I personally think it would be probably a good idea to just collect some questions from the chat and just try to answer this. If anybody has any questions, doesn't matter where you are, just write them in the chat. We will just pick some up randomly. I would start. Tyjon, you said, would you back the thesis to build Yearning Desire? I only have 2 Psy Cubes today and really am tempted. So personally, I do not have any thesis onto that because I have not been able to buy that Psy Cube yet. But I will refer you just over to Koki because he made a great video over that. Maybe you can give some more input on that.
Yearning Desire?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is a must buy. Like at this point, I hate to make like statements whereby you have to do this, you have to do that, but I think for free to play, definitely you have to buy it. A lot of people I've seen in Discord whereby they are not very keen on absorbing new information because they are being told that they should never buy 5-star Psy Cubes, and they are very who why should I trust a random guy to like just because he thinks that 5-star Psy Cubes are good? But a lot of times they didn't really think about the first advice first, which is not to buy 5-star Psy Cubes. Does that make sense? And a lot of like in my video, I did break it down to say that hey, they are non-competing in ways. It doesn't take that much time. The like DPM charts already show that Yearning Desire is great. Like YD is extremely easy to activate as well. Negative status as well as stats down, right? So this two, it's so easy to obtain. Like, what do you think, Lucky Lux?
Well, I think it's okay, especially considering in later patches they will give you free upgrades for your 5-star Psy Cube too. It's not the Gluttony, but it's the other one. They have like that little side event they added that's special for upgrading 5-star Psy Cubes. Pretty much just like a Gluttony. So
But
if you
I think that's a bit less important since because by then like hopefully
by then
with the
you would have swapped over.
the perspective you
but
should
like,
have already so
but like
but
I think
in
for
general,
the
what about other Psy Cubes, other 5-star? Have you seen any good ones in
have I seen any other good 5?
I'll be honest, I haven't seen any good 5-star.
I like no, like because like most people, like if they're using a 5-star, like you're using it in placeholder, like you're using it to move on.
So
like, and that's what I've seen, and like we talked about it. I think all 3 of us talked about like how people don't like using something if it's gonna be replaced, right? But of course, Yearning Desire has been talked about a lot. Something worse, but like people are like, why would I build up this Psy Cube over here if there's gonna 6-star version that's just gonna be better, right? So that's why like also
Yeah, I think that's often the comparison which is being made. Same Steampadek said, why Yearning Desire when you can Blasphemous though? And I think in the end, what you are doing is you trade some stats for an easier application of the amplification effect. So it's easier to just trigger this effect with 1 instead of 2 debuffs. That's the first thing. The second thing is 5-star cubes take just way less resources to max level. And for free to play, I think it is a really good thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to keep this 5-star in the long run and it will outdamage everything else.
Yeah.
I haven't done math on that yet, and I certainly will as soon as I have the Psy Cube. Might still take a little bit. But I think that's very interesting.
To that question about why do YD instead of BOTN? Like, because like why not we phrase the question the other way? Why not do Blasphemy instead of every other single 6-star Psycubes? Because Blasphemy gives the highest bonus damage. Like, why not that? Then someone would say, oh, of course not Blasphemy or Knight because it's so hard to trigger. I'm only going to use it for changing. Then the response is already here, right? Because YD at max amplification out DPSs every single other 6-star Psycube at amplification 1. Hence, it is better for free to play at least half a year, if not 1 year. So if you're comparing it to the best Psycube, if you could activate it, then I think it's a moot point because every other 6-star Psycube loses to Blasphemy of the Night. So I think that's something that people don't consider.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Yeah. So I think the comparison, Blasphemy of Night is a outlier given the fact that it has it's a risk reward thing, right? So or rather it's one side of the benefits will draw against give you some disadvantage. It's just like how Leah is a character that is advantage in crit scenarios whereby if you make her crit and then other people can't crit, then they are in a state whereby Leah might potentially edge out. But since Tooth Fairy comes into the picture and everyone crits, then your advantage is lost and she doesn't have as much attack stats compared to other people. When they both crit, obviously Leah is going to lose out. So I think it's a one-to-one comparison in this case as well.
Fair point. Do you have any questions in your chats?
Someone's asking Psycube priority for Gluttony. I saw it, but I'm like, that's a hard one to answer.
I'm making a video on it, but it will probably, because I'm going overseas tomorrow night, I'll probably schedule it for next week. So sometime next week.
I'll probably make a video on it too.
Yeah, we probably have to. It's about time because the currency is matching up, right? So it's about time people are getting Gluttony. So
I have one going for as well with some stats, at least for DPS Psycubes. To answer your question, if you max it, you will do around 1k DPS less per turn. But that is not because it sucks, it is because I just crit less.
Riven
it's just an RNG thing. I don't know how to build it essentially. I think Inquisitive Deer is a really good thing if you need just more sustain. I think it adds up really a lot over time. Otherwise, Thunderous Applause is a good investment if you have Lilia. If you don't have Lilia, Hopscotch has the problem you need to kill things. So in the long run, when you have only one boss fight in the end, one single raid, it will not do that much. In certain AoE situations, if you would play the story stages, it would be fine, but most of the time you don't need Hopscotch for that to even be able to do that. I personally think your best investment is probably Inquisitive Deer, Thunderous Applause, possibly Brave New World.
Be removed from the list.
I would probably say first I'd say Brave New World.
Look, seriously,
it's a universal. Brave New World is so universal. Almost every single DPS character has Brave New World.
Brave New World is universal. Easier. I think it's really decent, but the amplification isn't the best.
No, it's not.
That's the point.
But every character that
that's the advantage of it.
Yeah, pretty much every.
And you don't only need one Psycube, right? So if you have four members, you need to find Psycubes for all of them to use. That's where Brave New World can come in. Hopscotch probably is better if you can activate it, but if you can't, then it's not as good. Thunderous Applause it's very awkward right now. I think Riv, you mentioned about how it's good for Leah. And that is true.
I can tell you if you. I mean, I have the math on that.
It's definitely
about
good. It's definitely
going
good. But
going from
but yes,
A0 to A1 will give you a 2% damage increase.
yeah. But Leah doesn't want to use that once Tooth Fairy comes out.
That's
the
a different thing.
Yeah.
But it is the highest damage increase across all
correct.
Psycubes I've tested. However, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best investment, which is why I mentioned all the other ones. Like Brave New World is probably one of the best investments simply because it's so universally used. You can just use it on very different characters and it will be fine.
Blasphemy of the Night gives the most, right? Outside of I think it should give even more than Luxurious Leisure, if I'm not wrong. But like back to the points about who can use it. Yeah. So it's not just straight about who gets the most DPS increase. So
Yeah.
that's why I also think
that is exactly the problem why I haven't released this video yet. And I'm actually not sure if I will. If anybody's interested, I can probably just share the datasheet at some point. But there's not much reason for me to actually release the video because it's really hard to test these different Psycubes because you need to trigger them. And some of them have very specific conditions. And in the end, if I would need to tell you, don't upgrade it because my data says you will do 1k less damage, that is not really helpful for anybody. Because it's simply RNG based at that point. So
we are going to farm every single gluttony. We're going to refresh stamina to farm gluttony.
I do that actually.
I don't think that's a good idea, yo.
No, that is not a good idea.
Let's not do it. Let's not do it. It's a couple €100 down the drain again.
It is not a good idea, but yeah.
Yo, let's not do it. Let's not do it. I mean, this video we can settle it using logical ends. We don't have to go down the route of math for this video.
But that is what my content is about. That is what people tune in for.
Yeah,
it's okay. You don't have to.
You didn't.
No, I have to. I set this bar for myself, like up until here, spiked all the way.
It's like
yo, the bar is not. It's time to drop the bar, yo.
No, it is spiked. It is right here. It is spiked, and whenever I try to go below, it just hurts a lot. So it's really difficult. And also right now I have the problem ZZZ is out, and I'm planning like an hour-long review over the entire game or whatever, which also takes a long time to do.
Like just in general, do you think the combat is fun?
It's difficult. I think it is a good game. It has good aspects to it. But it will not be what people will play in the long term if they come from Genshin or Honkai Star Rail.
Oh well. Yeah. I put it more into the PGR, Aether Gazer.
Not even PGR. Not even PGR. The amount of combat you have in this game is surprisingly not as much as one would expect.
Don't say that. I didn't get into the test.
I will say that because that is. No, the thing is, people see this game and they probably want to play it because of the combat. The problem is the combats are relatively short, and in between the combats you have like these roguelike elements where you move between these different TVs, and that one actually takes most of your time. And these TV sections are kind of interesting. It's not that they aren't, especially later into the game, but they are not combat.
Kind of sucks.
Okay. So I only saw like a little bit of the footage, but it looks
if you want to, I can provide you. I have 100 hours of footage by now.
Yeah, I probably won't make a video on it. I'm just looking at it from a bystander point. If like we do want to make content on it, it's probably also not this soon because this is like the first beta, right? Is it the first beta?
No. The second one. The problem is there hasn't changed too much between the first and the second one.
I see.
And in spring, they had it in like springtime or something like that, or the summer.
I see. But when it's the last one, we'll know, right? Because there will be Twitch drops.
Probably. I'm actually not too sure.
For it, right?
It's
pretty much all of the Hoyo games. Like HSR also have Twitch drops. So all once it's near, probably get Twitch drops.
The thing is, I just plan to make a full review over the entire CBT, the current point, and I will try to keep it as neutral as possible. And afterwards, I give my own opinion on that, what I think is good, is not so good. And then people can form their own opinion. And honestly, I just hope that the video will reach somebody at HoYoverse so they can improve on all of the feedback they are getting. And if you look at most content creators right now who make videos about ZZZ, like Vulcan, etc., they all basically say the same thing. They are not really fond of this TV thing. And I think the problem is not the TV thingy itself. I think the problem is it takes too long until you get to the part where it actually is interesting. Yeah,
I see.
and
Okay.
not enough combat, possibly, but that's a different thing. Let's get back to R99. This is an R99 stream.
We have like 6 minutes left,
Yes.
so we can probably do some ending last questions thing. We
Yes.
cannot dive too
Any
deep
last
into
questions?
it. Any last
Put
questions?
them into the
Yeah.
chat.
You guys have?
Anything that y'all have that's a good question. Somebody asked if there's going to be future content with crying 4 members instead of 3. I think that was Kaki's. People, yes. Every boss fight has 4 members. It'll be a continuing trend, even more so as the game progresses. There's just be boss fights. It's always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So having
It's also more entertaining, right? Do you guys think?
Yes.
Like for
yes.
someone's talked about Charmin. What about Charmin? What are thoughts on Charmin?
Like
I think Rafe, you haven't seen Charmin's kid, right?
I haven't looked into it.
I've seen it, of course. Yeah, right. Shemaine, bro, I think Shemaine is really cool, but like, I personally also don't think he's necessary. I think he's very cool. Like, you know, he's this universal debuffer. And he's a support that does a lot of damage crit wise, right? You know, he takes the excess crit rate into crit damage and does a lot, but like, I wouldn't find myself using him over some of the other supports I'd rather use, personally. But Shemaine is really cool.
I think Charmin is alright.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're not going for portraits, I think it's alright.
Yeah, this
it's
is
just like it's just like Beacon. It's just like Beacon.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what I would like to see.
It's like a 6-star
Yeah,
or Bjorn. Yeah. That's how I feel.
And Beacon is pretty good though, so I guess Charmin is kind of good as a debuffer. But if you don't really need like a beast character, then you probably could use Beacon. I think not the best for like P0 is good enough, but yeah, if there are substitutes when it comes to P0, P5 is a different thing though. P5, but most people wouldn't be going for that, so I don't think we should be focusing too much.
He gets wild at that because he has all that 100% crit rate and his ult, something like that. Somebody's asking, are we gonna invite Jozikin? We do have plans to. I don't know if necessarily Jozikin, but like Steam Bun is. I think he said he's gonna be on the next one. So we do have plans.
Depends on if he agrees.
Yeah. Well, he talked to me. He said he wants to be on the next one. He told me in my live stream, but yeah, we have to talk to him.
Okay, cool. Then we have the confirmation.
Yeah, but yeah, of course we want to invite other like R99 creators and stuff to the podcast and stuff like that. Of course, this first week we didn't, and then it also depends on like the just general attitude and just
and
how
I think it's also about the timing, right? Because the 3 of us is already stretching it, but probably there wouldn't be someone's addition that makes it even worse. So I think this is as bad as it can get. So
time zones is crazy because like
fine.
It's like for me, like it's super early for me, and then it's like super late for Kaki, and it's whatever time for Riven because he says he doesn't have a schedule. But it's just a wild time, so it has to fit because it has to be at this time, like specifically.
Yeah.
That's we literally can't stray our time too much. That's just how our schedule is.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, Daddy free to play is in the chat as well.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, cool. Hey.
Yeah, what's up?
Daddy free to play is here.
Yeah, cool stuff. But yeah, to answer that questions, we are in contact with multiple other content creators, and we do have plans to invite guests over to various episodes. I have contacted Steambun like 2 weeks ago or something, and asked him if he would like to be part on the next episode, which will likely come on December 9th. After that,
Yep.
it will not be every 2 weeks. It will be once every patch. The exact time we don't know yet, either before or after a patch dropped. And afterwards, well, you will see when we announce a guest. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I think the first one is just for like a introduction. We see how the reception is.
Exactly.
And of course, I don't think we have problems like discussing stuff. We pretty much our conversations flow pretty well, so it's not, there's no problem from that end. It's more like how often we want to commit to this as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the first time we were in the Discord and we just wanted to discuss how to set this up, and instead we just talked like 3 or 4 hours about the game.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be fine. Yeah, definitely
Exactly.
no problem. We'll be looking to add people like as guests or as fixed members. It's hard to decide for now, but definitely we'll have guests in the future. So stay tuned for more guests that's coming.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Cool. Then at that point, I think we do have to wrap it up.
Yep.
Thank
That
you
should be it.
everybody for watching. It would be cool if you have any suggestions, any feedback for this entire thing. Contact basically anybody of us. Go to his Discord, go to his Discord. Go to my Discord, it doesn't matter. On the community post, in the chat, personal messages,
And
it doesn't
remember to
matter.
leave a like for all of the streams. That's very important.
Yes.
Of
So that it
course.
spreads to more people.
Give
Like
it
the
a
stream.
like,
Please,
share it
please
around,
please like.
And
spread the
sub.
word.
And sub to the
Yo.
everybody here. Like sub to everybody
Age
here.
of
I
your
have-
channel
Guys,
name.
you're just a sellout. I'm just asking people to leave feedback
Make
so
sure
we can
to
improve
like,
the stream.
comment on the stream, sub
Yeah,
up to
yeah,
the
yeah.
channel.
Don't forget to spend money.
Once again, this is I'm Rivenous. There is Lucky Lux, and of course there's me, Cocky Gachas over here. So the three
Yeah.
of us for this podcast.
Yes.
I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Thank you very much for
Definitely.
tuning in. We will see you
Thank
on
you, everyone.
December 9th. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Tell it.